Can you guys see the PowerPoint? Great, wonderful. We have tried to work a little bit on our audio settings. For those of you who have already been on some of our webinars, I hope you guys can see that it's been improving the audio quality. I hope so. Okay, let's just give it a couple of minutes so everybody else can join in. Get your coffee while you have the time, with the right cup, by the way. Wonderful, great. Can you hear a difference? Could you hear a difference from before? I see we still have some participants waiting. Let's just give it one more minute and then we're gonna get on with it. I don't know if it's only me who needs to go to the hairdresser soon. Everybody's caught up at home still. Let's hope everything opens up slowly. All right, I think we can just get started now. And let's just see if the rest of them joins in little by little. All right, I think most of you guys know me. I'm Farhan from Dahua Nordic. I'm the technical trainer and I'm usually doing these webinars nowadays. And on daily basis before this COVID period, I was doing a lot of hands-on training. Maybe you've participated in them as well. I do a lot of tests as well to show you guys how everything works in real life and not just in some perfect scenario. And I'm here actually to add some confidence into our systems for you guys, so you feel confident out there in the market whenever you need to present something. So, and before anybody asks, the PowerPoint and the webinar recording and some of the content I'm going to mention in the firmwares and so on, everything is shared at the end of the webinar. After you give us some feedback, then you'll get a link where you can actually download all this content. So don't worry about that. All the necessary tools you need in order to know what's privacy protection, how to use it, and so on, you'll get, because maybe some of the things you might not catch exactly what I'm talking about. So you'll always be able to watch it or share it with some colleagues. That's completely up to you. So if you guys have any questions, we are going to have a Q&A session at the end. So you guys can just keep it for then. But if you think it's urgent, then obviously you could just write it in the chat. Okay. So I think now we can get started. I hope everybody can hear me loud and clear. If there's anything with my audio, the picture, the PowerPoint you can't see, just shout out and I'll make sure to fix that immediately. All right. Okay. So today is about the privacy protection feature. As I said before, everybody can see the PPT, right? Somebody just answer before I go on. Great, wonderful. Today it's about the privacy protection feature. I know that there is something called privacy masking as well. Privacy masking is a little bit different. That is usually when you have, for instance, a camera connected, and then you have a specific area that could be your neighbor or some other place that was sensitive where you're not allowed to record, for instance, with your CCTV. Then you can add a privacy masking area. Once you have that, then that area is going to be black or another color, whatever you choose. Then you're not able to see that. You're not able to adjust it afterwards or remove the masking afterwards. So this is a little bit different from what we're going to talk about today. Today is going to be about the privacy protection feature. Then I'm talking about mosaicing, like to blur out the faces, blur out the body. And this is actually a feature we have in our cameras, in our Ultra Series cameras. So let's just dig into it in terms of the agenda. I'm going to talk about the topology, what different components go together and how to choose the right product for it. And then I'm going to go through the step-by-step simple setup. How do I set up all of these things? How do I make sure to get it running just like I am at the office right now? I'm going to test it. I'm going to demonstrate it for you. I made a couple of video examples as well. So if you have any requests for some more demonstrations, videos, or whatsoever that we can help you with in terms of this privacy protection feature, just go on ahead and ask us. We have all the setup right now, so it's a little bit easier for us to do those tests. But I can assure you that we have not made things easy for our cameras. And for the most of you who know me, I'm usually not known for making things easy for the hardware or technologies that we are using, because we want to push them to the limits. We want to see where is the breaking point, how well is it in a real scenario, and how should it work, and does it actually in fact work as we promise our customers. That's my job. So then we're going to talk a little bit about the application scenario. Where do we apply these functionalities? Which customers can we approach in order to implement these functionalities? And then at the end, we're going to have a Q&A session as well. So let's dig into it. First of all, we need to figure out and define what is privacy protection. Privacy protection is actually somewhat related to GDPR as well. We have had some updated rules for GDPR recently, last couple of years, where we had some quite tough restrictions as well. The GDPR rules were already there, many of them were already there, but they were just not enforced as they are being nowadays. Nowadays, big companies are fined if they are not following these compliances. So when we talk about GDPR and we talk about CCTV, because GDPR is actually the personal data that we need to handle. And this is where we have some specific rules where we need to follow them. And when we talk about CCTV, there are some things that are a little bit difficult because we are talking about video recording. Because if I need to give you your personal data or recording, that's not that convenient. It's a little bit difficult. because GDPR states that any person has the right not to be filmed in public. So if you're wandering around in the middle of the city and doing a video of a specific person, you're not allowed to do that without that person's consent. If there are some of the regulations I'm wrong about, please let me know. I'm happy to learn as well. This is also a learning process for me all the time. So I'll never get too old to learn. So that's the first part. Second part is, in GDPR, there's also a requirement that whenever a person asks for their own personal data to be handed over to them, in our situation, we are talking about the video recording, we have to do that within 30 days. That's a GDPR rule. That doesn't just apply to Denmark. We have another rule where it says in Denmark, that applies to Denmark, that we are not allowed to record more than 30 days at the time, and then it has to be deleted, and so on and so on. But GDPR states that when a person asks for the recording, it has to be done within 30 days, or at least within 30 days. We also have, when we are collecting the personal data from people, we have to make sure to notify them. This is also part of the GDPR, that you have to have a sticker in the window of a shop wherever you are recording, so that people have the rights to actually know where they can exercise their rights in order to get their personal data back to them. Last but not least, one of the biggest challenges that we have when we are talking about CCTV is when we have a customer who wants to have a backup of the recording of himself or deleted a specific recording, we have some laws that apply to that in terms of GDPR. A person who's being recorded has the right to get it deleted or get it handed over to them with the recording. And this is where the blurring becomes important, because if we need to give a person the recording back or give them a backup, we have to make sure that the other people on the recording are blurred out. There are some minimum, minimum requirement. It can't be more than, for instance, if it's more than 5 people on the video, then you can actually deny these people the right to get their recording, because it's too much of a hassle, I would say, or it's too much work. So you're actually allowed by law to deny them this right. So there are also other functionalities or other rules that apply to it. Is, for instance, there is a limit. If a person is harassing the shop owner, for instance, asking for this data, consequently, like every day, then he is allowed to deny it by law. So, but when we are talking about single cases, or every once in a while, then the person who's being recorded is actually allowed this possibility. So this was about the privacy protection in terms of GDPR, in terms of what we're going to talk about, because Dahua came up with a solution that allows you to blur everybody with a camera whenever they are walking around in a shop, and then we can use a redaction feature which actually removes the blurring whenever we need it. For instance, if it's for forensic work, then we have some specific permits in order to do a backup and remove them without having the consent of that person. So these features you can use, and then we have special credentials so that everything is done in a safe manner. Talking about GDPR, it's also important for me to say that whenever we are collecting data, whenever we are recording, we have functionalities that are safe to use in terms of the transmission between the camera and the NVR is encrypted. So we actually have quite high requirements for our devices in order to comply with GDPR. So whenever we are releasing a product in the Nordics, we are complying with the GDPR regulations. We actually have a cooperation with a German company that is helping us to approve all of these products before they are launched into market. So you're completely safe over there. When we talk about the privacy protection processing, how does it work and which function do I need to enable? The function you need to enable is called a metadata collection. It's also called video structuring in the NVR usually. What it allows you to do is actually to blur out faces whenever there is a person walking, automatically it will blur out that person's face. Or it could also be a body blurring. So that means whenever a person walks in and you want to blur the whole body, that's possible. You set it in the camera and then that's it. You don't have to worry about anything anymore. So let's look how the face mosaicing works, the blurring. This is actually a test we did in the office. This shows, this is how the, I hope everybody can see the video. As I said, don't worry, you're gonna receive it if there is any issue with the signal. And there you see we are walking. And yes, we might be looking like goofs, but we are just trying to exercise how difficult it can be sometimes. But our technology works amazing. I can tell from my side, it's blurring a little bit, like the video is lagging, but the recording that you'll receive in the PPT is going to be completely fine. And as you could see in the bottom right, you have the same recording where I actually did a backup with the redaction feature where I removed the blurring so that you guys can see the difference between them. All right. I hope everybody could see that. So that was the face blurring. And yes, we look like imbeciles 6:45 on a Monday, but this is all for you. Then we have the body mosaicing, the blurring. And this is actually how it works. You have a person walking in there and you can see instantly it blurs that person. I don't know if it's chopping up on your side. Is the video clear or is it chopping as well? Let me just try to run that back just a second. Okay, let me just try it a little bit differently. This might not be as big as the other one, but I hope this chops less. Oh, this is the important part. I hope this is a little bit better. Is it better now? Try to look at Justin where he's hiding. He's going back and forth. Look at how quickly the blurring is. We almost can't see him. That's how fast the blurring works. And I'm looking like an idiot over there, shaking my head, but I'm just trying to fool the camera. But as you can see, it's working perfectly fine. So, and let me just show you the face blurring as well. Or the body blurring, sorry. Look at how quick the body blurring is working, the mosaicing on the body. And think about, you have the possibility to remove this, which is called the redaction feature. You can remove these mosaicings whenever you want to do a backup. You can also keep them. So if you are sending this recording with the blurring to some kind of authority or some person, you can choose if the blurring should be there or not. So if that blurring is there, that person can't just change it. So that's a fact. Okay? So I hope you all convinced that this is how it works. And you could see that the effect of it. Let me just give me a sec. Let me just try to see if I can, yeah. Oh, let's just go a little bit back. So this is how it worked in real life. So how is the processing done? What does the camera in fact do? What happens is that the first part is that the camera actually detects the person enhances the or uses the algorithm to actually detect where that person is, and then it blurs out that sensitive area. In terms of if it's the face, then it starts adding the blurring, and then it adds another layer, another stream to it, so that it's actually delivering two different streams to the NVR, for instance. So the reason why you want to add two streams is because then you can remove the other one later on. So if you would just have one stream, then you wouldn't be able to use the redaction feature, the removing the mask part. So, and when we are talking about this, look at the face that whenever he was moving back and forth, we are talking about milliseconds. This is happening super fast. And how is this possible? Because we have super strong hardware when we are talking about our 7 series, Ultra series cameras. So without strong processing power, this would not be possible. So that's why this feature is only in the 7 series. So as you can see, it adds those two streams. Over here, we can split up those streams, and then we can use the recovery, and then we can choose who should be allowed to see that, who shouldn't. And as per se, in the NVR and the Dss Pro, the platform VMS that we have, we can actually set the authority to who is allowed to remove this redaction feature, so that it's not just the common users, but only the administrator users. So that adds another safety layer or security layer to the privacy protection solution. So I hope everybody is clear about how this works. As you can see over here, another part which makes this camera great, or why we are using our 7 series camera, is because it can actually have a capacity of taking care of the blurring with 60 frames, if that's a requirement from the customer. Usually, most of the customers that require 60 frames really don't need it. So that's just a misinterpretation. I'm not going to get through all the details about it, but it just shows the capacity is there from our camera side, so no worries about that. We can blur up to 64 objects at the same time, or people at the same time. That shows, again, another capacity. Usually, you wouldn't have the urge to blur out 64 people at the same time, but this is the power of Ultra Series Dahua cameras. And the detection rate up to 98%. That means we can do this where we could be quite sure that it's going to be covering. So what you have to bear in mind is, yes, you might have a lag of a millisecond every once in a while when a person turns. As you could see from our test, what we did, it was hard for us to replicate. It was working like a charm. But what you have to understand is the camera actually has to detect the person, has to figure out that this is actually a person. This is not just a plant that looks like a person. This is an actual person, and then it adds the blurring. And as you can see, it was super fast. Last but not least, what it also gives us the possibility is, since we are using the video metadata collection, it also gives us the possibility to collect that metadata, the color of the person's clothes. Is he wearing short sleeves, long sleeves? Is it a male, female? All these different attributes we are also getting, because the function that we had to enable in the camera in the first part was actually also taking care of all the metadata collection. So let's talk about which products do I need in order to implement this to a customer's solution. First of all, as I said, we need the 7 series camera. It has to be running a 4 megapixel. You can use a 4K 7 series, but you have to deduct the resolution down to 4 megapixel in order to get this to work. Second of all, it requires a special firmware, customized firmware. Regular firmware you can use. This is just tested with the regular firmware, as you can see in the bottom. There might be a newer one out there. So for the 7 series, this is a baseline feature, the privacy masking. And then we have the NVR. What you can do with the NVR is you can add up to 4 channels. With these 4 channels, you're able to remove and add the masking, not add the masking to some other cameras, but the ones that were already added from the 7 series cameras, we can remove or use the redaction feature. And we also have the possibility to set up the requirement for the user who is allowed to do that, as I was mentioning before. But when we are using an NVR, it requires us to use a customized firmware. We can't just use a baseline firmware because this is not part of it. Then we have the Dss Pro. What more can we do with the Dss Pro? The Dss Pro gives us possibilities to do much better searches when we are searching for metadata. We can do that from the NVR as well, but this gives us even easier ways to work around with it. And we can add lots of more cameras to it. When you want to use Dss Pro, since it's a licensed software, you would have to buy a base package, first of all. And the smallest base package that we have is consisting of 12 video channels. So that's mandatory if you want to use the Dss Pro. The reason why I would recommend to use this is because the Dss Pro can be used for much more sophisticated things than just this blurring part. This is just one small feature of it. But when we are talking about doing searches, searching for specific objects in an area that could be broken or whatsoever in terms of a week or whenever, it is much, much faster when you're using Dss Pro because it has features like thumbnail. When we are doing the backups, you can do backups for multiple cameras at the same time. So all in all, you get a much better overview whenever you want to do playbacks. So that's why I would personally recommend to use Dss Pro. So when we go over to the metadata feature over here, this is how it looks in the camera. We're going to jump to the camera website in a minute, and I'm going to show you how to set everything up. So as you can see, we get 6 face attributes and up to 8 body attributes on the appearance metadata from that person. So that means the color of the person's jacket or whatsoever. In order to use the privacy protection feature, we need to enable that feature. Once we enable it, we are not allowed to use any of the other features. So this is just important to bear in mind. The camera also provides us with a possibility for Npr detection, people counting, regular analytics like the tripwires, intrusion zones, missing object, abandoned object, so on and so on. And then regular face detection, where we can actually only collect the faces. So this is important to remember. When you're using the privacy protection feature, you don't have to enable the face detection. These are 2 different things, all right? So whenever we go to the NVR side, this is actually how it looks because you cannot add and remove the redaction feature. Try to look at the video right there. And let me just play it again. Try to look closely and see if you notice something funny. You saw just before I had the face blurring, and now I'm going to move the face blurring. And there you have it. That's how simple it is. And keep on looking. Did anybody notice anything funny? Anything weird? Out of the ordinary in that video? Apart from my face being blurred in the first part when I came, I added the redaction feature and then it was removed. Did anybody see anything else? Yes, exactly, the light. That's the detail that I wanted to mention. Why the 7 series is also very good at this. The feature also is in the 5 series, but whenever we want to have good face appearance searches, or whenever we want to detect a face very clearly, we need to have the proper lighting conditions. But what we did in our cameras is, whichever that supports the face detection, the 5 series and the 7 series, in the face detection, we actually added a function which is called the face exposure. So when you enable this part, this is done directly in the metadata feature, but this also shows in the face detection feature. You can enable them both places. But what this does is it makes sure that we have enough light on the face in order to have good detection, or that could also be recognition if we were using a face recognition 7 series camera. So light is key whenever we want to have lots of details, obviously a good sensor, but if we could get the camera to decide whenever it had to increase or decrease the light, that would be amazing, right? And this is a feature you can just enable. I would definitely urge people to do that. Then the camera will do like an autopilot function for the exposure. You don't have to worry about the clarity. The only thing I will say, when you want to have clear face images, when we are using, if it's face detection or just this collection of metadata, when we want to use the blurring or without the blurring, doesn't matter. When we want to capture crisp, clear faces when they are moving, there is one function that's important to address, and that is shutter speed, and not frames per second necessarily. So shutter speed is where we need to adjust. And as long as what happens when you increase the shutter speed, had a higher shutter speed, what happens is that the camera is allowing less light into the camera from outside, because the shutter speed is faster. And once this one is faster, we need to have a functionality in the camera that can actually increase the exposure, so that we compensate for that lacking light if it's not enough. And this is all the magic, where you enable this feature and then you don't have to worry about the exposure. So important part, make sure when you have lots of movement, fast movement, think shutter speed immediately, nothing else. So I hope that's clear. So this is done directly in the camera. So let's try to dig into the camera. Oh, let's try to dig into the camera. No. Let me just see. This one was too. I think it was this one. Just give me a sec. Okay, I hope everybody can see this right now. I'm just gonna turn around the camera out there. I hope you guys can see the image from my camera. Now the camera should be pointing towards me. Can everybody see it clearly? Great. And as you can see, it should be blurring my face right now while I'm walking around. All right. So this is how it works. So the first thing I need to do in order to get this working is obviously go to my settings, then go to my events. Once I'm in my events, I need to create a smart plan. Whenever I'm doing any type of analytics, I need to enable my smart plan when we are talking about do it in the edge in the camera. Smart plan, and as you can see, I have my video metadata enabled. Once I've done that, then I can go to my video metadata. And as you can see, I have added multiple rules. I'm only using the people rule. So that means it's collecting metadata of those people. All right. So if I go in here, you see the enable face exposure as well. And over here, this is where I can enable the privacy protection, and I can choose body or face. So now I'm just going to go out again. And you're going to see. The blurring should be removed right now, right? Whoa, 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 whoa. GDPR, GDPR, GDPR. There we go. Okay. So that's how simple you set up the privacy protection for the body, for the face. So let's go on to the next part. I hope that was very clear for everybody to see. It's super simple to set up, nothing special. So apart from that, as I said, the 7 series has the possibility to collect all the other metadata of it, up to 96 object detections simultaneously, because this is just one feature. And since we have so strong hardware, we have approximately 4 gigabytes of RAM inside a camera. That's more than many phones nowadays. So that's why we can use all these features together. When we are using these features, this is how it looks. This is just from the searches directly from the DSS platform. This could also be done directly from the camera, collecting the metadata. That's not an issue. We can use an SD card to store all of it. So as you can see, it's capturing the model, the color of the car, and also the vehicle size. It also captures bicycles. So we can filter out whenever we are looking for someone specific, right? So when we go to our NVR, this is where I can, first of all, see it in my local view. Whenever I'm using the local view, there's a small button over here. This is, by the way, as I said, a customized firmware, as it says up here. And that's also going to be shared with you, no worries. So once you're doing the playback with the 7 Series cameras that is supporting the privacy masking, then you have this button that you can use, the privacy redaction feature. Whenever you enable this, then it's going to remove the masking. So that's the local interface directly from the NVR. Then we also have the web-based part. And over there, as you can see, you also have this feature where you can remove it or add it. So that's very simple to use. So as I said, by default, the NVR has the feature to encrypt all the data between the NVR and the camera. So you're safe about that part. And as I said, predefine the rules for, or the authority for admin is only to be able to use this function. Whenever it's a regular user, he's not able to see this button whatsoever, and then he can't do that. And you can also, with an NVR, you can also search for what to say, people, and then you'll see all the blurring. I'm going to show you. I think it's a little bit easier. So let's just try to jump over to the platform part. Sorry, the NVR part. I hope everybody can see this. This is my NVR, by the way, running over here. I actually added a NVS, the encoder box, in order to add this to my NVR and then to my platform. So what I'm able to do here is, first of all, log in. Once I'm in here, I can, first of all, double click on my camera. And as you can see, I can enable or disable the privacy redaction feature. This is very simple. Then I can go to my searches. And then I have the recording here, for instance. Oh, let me just remove the other ones. Then once I'm in here, I can just enable and disable the redaction feature as well, just like that. So that's how simple it is. So once you do a backup, if you have the authority to remove it, the backup will do the backup with the Mosaicing enabled or not, depending on what you choose. If you're enabling the redaction while you're cutting out the video to do the backup or not. All right. So apart from that, we can go into our main menu in our AI functionality. Then we have the human body up here. I can choose the timeline to search for. I can choose 08 or 7. Maybe some early birds out there. Then as you can see, I can choose the specific appearance of that person. Once I've chosen that, then I can do a search. I don't have that much recording right now, so I'm just gonna search for everything. Oh, wait a second. Let me just search for a second. There you have it. Oh, I didn't record all of it, unfortunately. And there you can see, this is how it works. Now the person is going to be coming into the picture. Now I clicked it and then it removed the mosaicing. Now I added it again. Now I disabled it, or enabled it, and that was the video. So I hope everybody saw that. So that means by default, all of these informations are blurred. We can't just remove them unless we have the right authority for it. Okay? So that was more or less how you do it on the NVR. I hope that was pretty clear for everybody. Just requires you to have a special firmware, and that's it. And then we go back. Okay. Let me just turn that camera around. Again. Any doubt about this feature? Anything? Great. Then obviously it's clear for everybody to see. So that was the NVR. When we go to the platform part, we have a little bit different features. It's quite similar, but it's a little bit more structured and easier to figure out how to use these features. As you can see, we have the live and playback privacy, just like the NVR. We can download. The difference is whenever you want to do a download from our platform, it adds another security layer where you have to add the password of a authorized user in order to do a backup. So that's another layer of security. Encrypted video as well. And then only the admin authority. And then once you are creating the users, you get the possibility to set the credentials right here where it says either you want the person to only do the live view and playback redaction so that they can remove it. But once they want to do a backup, they're not allowed to add the redaction feature or use the redaction feature. All right. So that makes it very, very simple and easy. So let me try to go to the platform and show you how everything is set up. This is our homepage right here. The first thing we need to do is we need to add our camera. We go down here to the tools. This is, by the way, the V8. This works with version 7 as well of Dss Pro. I go to my resources. I have added my camera. Just put in the credentials or do a regular search for the device. That's just very simple. Once you're in here, then I go and find my camera since I've already added it. And then I go to my video channels. This is important. So over here in my features, I can choose which features am I using, which features have I already enabled, or what rules have I already enabled in my smart plan in the camera. As you can see, I enable target detection because I want to collect the metadata and do the searches for the metadata as well. People counting, that's only if I'm using that feature as well. And then privacy masking, obviously. So one thing is that I have enabled more rules than I'm using right now. So if I change my mind, I want to switch to some other feature in the camera side, I don't have to change anything over here in the platform part because I already enabled those rules that I want to listen to. Okay, so that was the first part. Then we go to our live view. Oh, by the way, before going on, if we want to use this redaction feature, we have to store on the platform. We can't do it through an NVR. That means if we are storing in an NVR, the camera is connected to an NVR, we cannot use this redaction feature. So the camera has to be connected directly to the platform. So in our storage, if you're using local storage, you have to define a specific disk for a specific purpose. I have added a disk or partition that is for the face and alarm pictures. So that's why I'm getting the pictures for the metadata over here. So once I've specified this part, then I'm able to get those pictures. And not to forget, sorry, the recording. I have to have a storage disk for regular recording, video recording in order to do this. So that was this part. Over here, right click, enable privacy masking, right click, and then disable privacy masking. Just like before, I assume I don't have to go out there and show you guys. You guys believe me, I hope so, but it works. And then the same way, once we go over to our playback part, I'm gonna go over to my classic view over here, playback search. Then I'm gonna choose the camera. And then since I'm storing in the server part, then I'm gonna choose the storage down here as store on server. Then it's gonna show me I have all these recordings. Would you want to have a look at them? Yeah, sure. And then I could just move the mouse. And then I could just click. And as you can see, this gives me a little bit better of an overview over here. I can double click it. I could zoom in. So it makes it a little bit easier for me to find that recording that I'm looking for. And as you can see, when you're using Dss Pro, you also get a thumbnail on top of where you are keeping the mouse on the timeline. So you can actually see what's going on exactly at what time. And as you can see, the faces were blurred immediately. Let's just play that back a little bit and then do the, whoa. And then I'm going to be disabling the privacy masking. There you go. So that's it. This is Dss Pro, yes, exactly. So that was the first part. Whenever I want to do a backup, for instance, I'm just gonna click the scissors here. I'm gonna click starting point, ending point, type in my password. Click OK. Then over here, while I'm trying to back up, it's going to ask me, do I want to use the privacy masking enabled or disabled? Then I can choose. Then also I'm able to transcode it into a AV, another video format, MP4, whatever I want to use, or I want to keep the original one. Personally, I would rather prefer to keep the original one because then I can keep the original and then make another copy where it's transcoded. So because the raw format will also be the best source of evidence for me, because we can use watermark functions and whatsoever. And up here, I'm able to change the timing up and down. Like if I wanted to go a minute before, I can change that. And then I could keep the masking or I can disable it and then click OK. When I'm over here, then it takes me over to the download center, and this is how it looks. Shows me which file is being downloaded right now. Then I can click open. I think it's this one. I don't know if it was the which one of them I had done. Let me just go over here and click the 7 series. It should be the 7 series, yeah. This is the one. I had transcoded it already. Boom, let's just keep on going. And there you have it. That's how easy it is. That's how it works. So let's do it from the another way. Let's go to the metadata collection. That's another way of doing it. When I go to my homepage over here, I can do the metadata search. Once I do the metadata search, I'm going to be clicking features. First of all, I'm going to choose humans because I'm looking for humans. I'm going to click features because I want to search based on features. I can't search based on image because I'm not using a IVSS. If I was using an IVSS, I would be able to do that backend. So I'm using the features over here, choosing the time, and then search. I could change those different specifications or filterings and add them, and then I would have less results. So once I have my overview over here, I can click the record playback. And then once here, I can also click the log file, log recording. So if I wanted to keep the log recording, as you can see, this was one without the blurring. I can enable it over here. And then over here, I can define the locking. Which part do I want to lock? Let me just remove that. Let's just try that again. Now I enable the face masking. There you go. So I want to lock this file. I'm going to click, and then I'm going to click start, end, and lock it. That's fine. And then we're going to find it in our download center later. So right here, I can click download all link recording. That means the whole video right there. I want to download. And then I'm also able to enable or disable my privacy masking just from my search in my metadata of the filtering and downloading it. So this is super convenient, and that's it. So you remember I locked the file before, right? Then I can go to my files over here. I can click my camera, store, and then I have a lot of different files here. I had locked multiple of them, and then I'm able to just click one of them and then just click download, and that's it. So that's how, and I still get the possibility to add or remove the privacy masking. So that's it. Whenever, last but not least, with Dss Pro is the feature to give the authority how to use this or not use this feature for the mosaicing or the blurring. The first thing I need to go down to my settings, configuration. Then I'm going to go to users. And then I'm going to go down to users here, or I could create a role, add the user, Fahan. And then down here, you're going to be able to see, first of all, I can choose which devices, which NVRs should I be able to connect to. I could just choose some random ones down here. First of all, I need to define a administrator, super administrator, whatsoever. And then all of a sudden, these features would already be applied to it. And then down here, as you can see, as I told you guys before, the different authorities down here. So that's how it works for the users. Nothing else to add. I hope it was clear for you guys to see how everything works with Dss Pro. I don't know if anybody has questions about how to use this privacy protection feature with Dss Pro. I guess not. Then let's just go on to the next part. We are almost done. So last part is where to apply this. And as you can see, we have a lot of different options because face blurring, face mosaicing, as you could call it, or privacy protection can be implemented in tons of different scenarios. The first thing I'm thinking of is the transportation sector, buses, trains. We would many times have issues if we are recording lots of different people and we need to do the backup with blurring everybody else. That makes it very difficult. Dahua does not have the feature where you can choose which person you want to blur, but there's a lot of different software out there that can actually help you do that part if you need to do it. But you can, limit people from getting the recording with the face without the blurring. Because if you send out a recording or back up a recording with all the blurring with it, that should be fine according to GDPR. So transport sector would be definitely a way to go. The only thing that concerns me is whenever we're talking about transport sector, then we have moving objects. I mean, moving vehicles, right? And if you stuff in a regular NVR in a moving vehicle, obviously it's a matter of time before the disk dies or the hardware dies inside because it's not built for movement, for shaking. But the good news is right now we are working very hard on a AI NVR feature in the mobile NVRs where this feature is actually supported. I have just seen it working day before yesterday. And that was just to give you a confidence of we are working for the transportation sector because I see huge potential in this. Another part that could be resort spas, where we would rather not record everybody. If we could avoid it, that would be better, but only remove the blurring if there would be some kind of episode. That would make it a little bit more safer. Personally, I would feel better if I was visiting a spa, relaxing with my wife and family or whatsoever, or whatever was happening. If I knew that they were using the body blurring or face blurring, or at least just body blurring, that would, for me, that would feel safer as well, because I would rather not want anybody else sitting over there as a security guard watching the recording, even though it's not legal to monitor constantly. according to GDPR, but it happens, unfortunately. That's where I could use this blurring feature as well. That could also be shopping malls. Super important. Whenever you have a lot of people walking around, you'd rather be able to blur them and then only remove it when it's needed, because you are again making it safer for people to have a privacy in this situation. That could also be restaurants, a lot of different features, hotels, that could be education facilities, schools. Regularly, I would be against having cameras in school classes, but I think once we are using face blurring or body blurring, it makes it a little bit easier, or mosaicing, as you would call it. It would make it a little bit safer and easier, because the only person that would be authorized would be a person that has a higher level of security, that could do the backups with moving or using the redaction feature. Another part I could think of would be something like gyms, something like swimming pools, areas where people get almost completely undressed. For me, that would make it a little bit safer if you could add features like blurring also for the people. VIP locations where people don't want to be recorded, that are VIPs. No worries, you don't have to do anything. It's already blurring by default. Hotels, there's a lot of different scenarios, or gyms. Many times when people are exercising and there are cameras out there, they would feel better if everything was blurred, right? And I assume there's lots of different potential business possibilities out there. You just name it. It's a matter of thinking a little bit out of the box. But I think this is definitely a feature you should emphasize and spend much more time on. It's already there. It works great. So that was it. That was more or less it. I know I was a little bit over time. We started a little bit later. We were waiting for some people. So now it's actually the Q&A session. I don't know if anybody has any questions apart from that. Just please let me know and I'll try to answer them to my best effort. There's a question here. Can you disable privacy protection for a specific human on the recording, or is it only on and off? As I said before, you cannot use it for a specific, you cannot define this person I need to remove the blurring from, but the other ones I want to keep it. That's going to be too complicated, unfortunately. The capacity is just not there, and it's going to be very, very difficult. There are a lot of different editing software over there that you can use. So it's just on or off. Then we have a couple of questions from Krista. Thanks. The first question is difference between redaction and mosaicing. Redaction means removing the mosaicing. So whenever you are enabling the redaction, you're removing the mosaicing. I hope that answers that question. Regarding GDPR, is this okay to use masking but still be able to unmask whenever you want to? Yes, it is, because what you're doing is, if you are required to delete a person, for instance, you still have 30 days. There's another workaround to it is, if you're recording for 30 days maximum, then obviously whenever the last day is, the recording is already gone. So the person is already deleted. So, and the person, if you are, transcoding this recording into a different format, AV format or whatsoever, or even just whenever you're doing the backup, you're not able to remove the masking later on. So that's safe to use. So I hope that makes sense. And third question, I hope that answered the second question, Krista. Third question, please explain what the camera does and what the NVR does regarding mosaicing. As I said before, the camera, what it does is, it actually, first of all, it detects the person immediately. Once it detects it, it figures out which area I need to add the mosaicing stream. Once the camera knows that this is the person or this is the face, then it adds another stream. That's the mosaicing stream. And then it sends over the data to the NVR or to the platform, wherever you want to do. That's how it works. So I hope it makes sense for you. The fourth question, can a camera do this as a standalone with an SD card? No, unfortunately, not from my testings. You're not able to remove the mosaicing of the recording on an SD card. Is the correct camera with the correct firmware important, even if you have the correct NVR? Yes, you cannot use any other camera for the mosaicing than the 7 series. And that has to be a 2 or 4 megapixel version. You can use the 8 megapixel version of the 7 series, but then you have to deduct the resolution down to 4 megapixel in order to use this feature. Hope that answers the question. So you cannot use the 5 series for this. So, and if you want to use the redaction feature, removing it, it has to be through an NVR or through the DSS platform. And that is a 5 series NVR, not any other one. 5 series NVR with a customized firmware. So I hope that answers your question, Krista, or please let me know. Was there a way to add it on an existing camera type in 4 megapixel? If you are thinking about a 5 series or whatever in 4 megapixel, then no, then it's not possible. Or please try to explain the question a little bit more. If you have a 7 series camera, yeah, and you have already got it installed, then just go ahead. All right, guys, if none of you have any questions, I think we are more or less done for today. I hope it was interesting for you. It was definitely interesting for me to explain a little bit more about. To me, this is groundbreaking technology that you're able to do all of these features in the edge, in the camera, and we are talking pennies in terms of cost. So this is definitely something you should push to the market. That's also why we are doing the webinars. Last but not least, I have the sharing link part. On the left side, you have my LinkedIn QR code. If you want to hook up, just scan me over there and then add me. Then we also have a Facebook Dahua Nordic page. If you are not following it already, please follow it. We are scheduling all our webinars, sending out invitation links, registration links, sharing a lot of different tests, so on and so on, directly from our Facebook page, but also from our LinkedIn page. It's called Dahua Nordic if you go to LinkedIn as well. Follow us there as well. We are sharing all information about trainings, new products, new tests that we have been doing, interesting solutions that we are doing with different partners. That could be many different parts. So, and last but not least, to your right side, there is the feedback QR code. I would love for you guys to scan that one and give us a rating about what you thought about the training. What things could we change? What things do we need to elevate or improve on? Because it's important that you feel that this training is valuable for you. Because if you don't think that it's valuable, then we are all wasting each other's time, right? So I'm trying to see if I can generally, cover up all the parts of a privacy protection feature or whatever topic it is. But please let us know. There's always room for improvement. And then last but not least, thank you for listening. That was great. So as I said, once you have finished the feedback, then you're going to get the sharing link. You are not able to get the sharing link. And then I'm talking about all the content, the PowerPoint that I went through, the firmwares, everything you need to have. There's also some guide material, how to use it with Dss Pro as well. So scan that one and get the give us the feedback, get the link, and then you can download all the content. I'm going to add the recording of this webinar afterwards because obviously I just have to download it from the cloud. But once you have the link, then you can just always open it up later on and then you'll see the recording is in there. All right? Thank you for listening. I'm going to stay around for a little bit more. So that was more or less it for me. And if you have any questions, I'm still here for a little while. All right? Take care and stay safe out there, okay? Bye-bye. Thank you, Fleming. You too. Thank you for attending. And by the way, we are going to have more webinars as well. We are running this webinar again Friday. If you want someone else to join in, please let them know. Share the link. We have it on we have it on Facebook and LinkedIn. The links to register. I have the I can share you guys the feedback link if you want to do it from the computer, if that's more convenient for you. There you have it. Tusind tak, Martin. Thank you, Arne. Looking forward to see you next time, Fleming, for the next webinar. I'm doing another webinar, a different webinar that is not about the privacy protection, but actually is about CCTV, generally CCTV, getting back to the roots of it, how to make sure that we have the right configuration, how to make sure that we have the right camera, the right setting, that we understand the right setting, what are the right settings, and what does these different settings do for me in terms of functionalities, and also which common challenges would you meet as an installer. That's on the 11th of March and the 16th of March, which is called Back to Basics CCTV. So you could also register to that one. There are limited seats, so please register as quick as possible. If anybody has any other questions, I'm free to ask. Go ahead. And Krista, thank you all for all the interesting questions. This is what makes the difference as well. When we have a lot of different questions, I'm quite sure that you might not have been the only one sitting with those questions. So it makes it very interesting to have a debate or a dialogue about the different functionalities, the different limits, and so on and so on. So the more we understand about it, the easier it is to be confident and go out in the market. If there's going to be a partner program, yeah, you have to contact the sales guy that's in charge. I assume you're based in Sweden, right? Then it's Marcelo. You can contact him or your distributor, then they will tell you all about the partner program. So yes, that is the DPP program, yeah. The partner program, we have been running the partner program for quite a while. We have not launched the app functionality in the Dahua partner app part in Denmark yet, but we are on the verge to do that. All right, guys, I'm going to close off for today. So thank you all for listening and thanks for your time, and see you next time on the next webinar. Take care out there. Bye-bye.